make sure I'm actually live. All right, we are live. So, hello everyone, and welcome to First Force 13 live streaming here, and we are here to talk about Super Typhoon Yutu, or former Super Typhoon Yutu. We think that it has now weakened to winds of 145 miles per hour, and it is expected to maintain its intensity as it moves ever so closer to Luzon. I am joined here by Nathan Foy. Hello, Nathan.
Yeah, there's no need to adjust your set. I really do sound as terrible as this.
Everybody has their off day. Yesterday, I ended up starting the stream, and it happens. But anyways, the big focus right now, of course, is Yutu as it continues to move off towards Luzon. Here is the cone by the JMA, and you can see here on day 4, takes it directly over Luzon, as well as the Pagasa cone, which also on day 4 takes the storm directly over Luzon as a direct impact continues to grow ever more likely. I'll show some spaghetti model runs here, and you can see that the storm is basically, the models are split between two groups. You have the groups that take it just offshore of Luzon and then cut it back up off to the north and east. Or you have the model group that goes directly over Luzon, cuts off to the north and east, and potentially impacts Taiwan. So as I was saying yesterday, Taiwan needs to be interested in looking at this storm. I still maintain that Taiwan needs to continue monitoring this system for the time being. The current JMA intensity is 925 millibars, and they are not expecting it to weaken at all, but it's also not expected to gain any strength as it continues to move towards Luzon, expecting the typhoon to stay at 925 millibars. As far as the information from Pagasa, they say that the typhoon is expected to enter into the Philippine area of responsibility tomorrow morning and will be named Rosita. The typhoon may threaten northern Luzon and the eastern section of central Luzon between Tuesday, October 30th and Wednesday, October 31st. Tropical cyclone warning signals may be raised as early as Monday morning on October 29th over the Isabela and Cagayan areas, and moderate to heavy rains directly associated with Yutu is expected over northern and central Luzon beginning Monday evening. The Public and Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council concerned are advised to monitor for the next update on this weather disturbance to be incorporated into the public weather forecast as well. So basically, everybody at Pagasa is on high alert for this system.
So that's directly from Pagasa.
Yes.
I'm surprised that they're only talking about warnings on the 29th.
That's when they say, that's when they're saying the earliest is going to be. Like, their Signal 1 warnings don't usually come up, 2 days in advance?
Sometimes they do it as soon as it enters the PAR.
Okay.
Which will be, I think, tomorrow or tonight.
Yep.
Local time.
Some people in the comments seem to be confused about what the intensity is. We're currently going with an intensity of 145 miles per hour and a JMA minimum central pressure estimated at 925 millibars.
Also of note is the wind field depicted from JTWC. I'm not sure what the others are saying. But from JTWC, they're saying 34 knot winds, that's tropical storm strength, 200 nautical miles off to the northeast, 170 nautical miles to the southeast, 135 to the southwest, and 190 to the northwest. And that's why, even if it sails into the South China Sea, Taiwan could see significant conditions.
Absolutely, and the JMA actually has it larger, but they're also using 30 knot winds, not 35 knot winds. So, but 30 knot winds extending 600 kilometers or 325 nautical miles off to the north and east of the storm. And that's very typical of these storms that are trying to get annular. You can see here that it's trying to clear its eye out. It's been having a really rough time doing that over the past day, and hopefully that continues to be the case. Obviously, we really don't want this storm to strengthen. There's really no reason for it to really strengthen or weaken as it continues to move west. However, conditions are pretty much going to remain the same. It, of course, might weaken a little bit as it stalls, but that might only be 5 miles an hour at best. So I don't think
I was always skeptical when this storm was peaking, when I was doing the updates. I've not been doing updates recently because I've barely been able to speak as well as move. But what they were saying at the time is that the storm was supposed to remain a Category 5 and remain, you know, not just 160 miles an hour, but way above that. Yet wind shear was going to get into the 20 knot range. And that made no sense at all. Right now, they're saying the models spread something like 15 knots of wind shear, could be rising to 25 by tomorrow. And then it will drop again later on.
And obviously that's going to potentially impede how much the system is going to be able to get its act together. That's going to impede the upper anticyclone of the storm, and that's going to disrupt how tall the cloud tops could end up getting as well. So
when this storm was peaking, mid-level relative humidity, which is usually the water vapor graphic that we look at, had about 70-80%. And now it's down to about 45 and expected to drop to 35 in the next 2 days. And sea surface temperatures dropping a bit as well. So all indications point towards gradual, steady weakening.
And yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I don't think that this storm's going to get much stronger, if at all, than it is right now. And it should just gradually weaken as it approaches the Philippines. Of course, every single other time we've said this, the storm's done something crazy in the last 6 hours. And I don't think that's going to happen with this one, though, because of how huge this storm is. This is a massive system.
That's the point.
Yeah.
What you could say, though, is that there could be some room for re-intensification in the final 24 hours before the Philippine landfall, if it does that. Or not, as the case may be, if it stalls just offshore, because the stalling would negate any intensification, you'd imagine.
Yeah, that would end up negating any intensification, and also that would likely be a worst-case scenario, as that would end up dumping potentially up to a meter of rain over Luzon, and that's not something that we want to be seeing. You know, if it ends up stalling over Luzon, that's just something that is... It's the worst case scenario pretty much. And that's something that we could end up seeing happening here. As you can see, some of these models take it very slowly over Luzon and then cut it up off to the north and east, where it really still isn't going anywhere.
Would you say at present for the Philippines, the GFS model is the worst case?
Yeah, honestly. And I'll show that right now. I'll just get that up. So you can see here's 3 tracks where you have the HWRF, which takes it further north than the GFS, but note here where the GFS takes it maybe within 20 miles from landfall and then just stays there for at least a day, and that continues to stay there for another 2 days at least. So you could be talking here in the northeastern tip of Luzon, they could be getting 3 to 4 days of rain from it.
Which run are you looking at there?
That would be the 6Z run.
12Z looks a little bit faster, but not very much.
Yeah. But that's basically what's happening with the 5 days, is that it's staying right there, and it's gonna, stay right there. It ain't really in any hurry to go anywhere.
Which run are you looking at there? 12Z looks a little bit faster, but not very much. Yeah. But that's basically what's happening with the 5 days, is that it's staying right there, and it's gonna stay right there. It ain't really in any hurry to go anywhere. GFS estimates over 300 millimeters of rain for a lot of those mountains in northern Luzon.
Yeah. And with the uplift with the mountains, they could easily exceed that as well. It could easily exceed 500 millimeters with that scenario. So that's something that we're just going to have to wait and see on. Of course, this is still 4 days out from actually with its closest approach or landfall on Luzon, and still 3 days out from even showing its effects on Luzon.
And go back another 4 days, and we were talking about this storm brushing the Ogasawara Islands of Japan.
Yep. And things can obviously change in 3 days. But it is advised that all parties, especially in Luzon and also in Taiwan, and let's not forget about the Cagayan and Babayan Islands to the north of Luzon as well, to just keep an eye on this storm and heed all local authorities, obviously. If you're going to be one of the people in the maximum wind band of this system, obviously get out of the way of the storm. And that's pretty much all that I really have to say about storm preparedness, is just listen to everybody and just monitor the situation. It's really too early to tell exactly what's going to happen, but these are the potential scenarios that are currently going around.
I'd say it's a pretty safe bet that the northeastern part of Luzon will get at least tropical storm winds. Yep. Currently about 63% chance on that.
Yep.
I'll just up to one or two questions that we had. May as well answer them. Do we think that Yutu was 190 miles per hour? No.
No. There was an unofficial wind report of 192. That's suspect to say the least. I honestly, I think the satellite appearance is 180 at best, but I know that Nathan here has gone with 185. It's, again, that's just 5 miles an hour difference, but I don't think it was 190. No.
And I still don't think we've heard very much out of those areas with regards any other observations or what.
Yeah, and I was saying yesterday that the observations were kind of iffy, to say the least. Because they were saying that because we're getting pressure readings that suggest the storm was in the 940s for pressure, and that just doesn't compute with a 180 mile an hour storm. So either the satellite estimates are wrong or the readings are wrong, and I'm honestly more inclined to believe the satellite estimates at that point.
It was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was some weird data that we ended up getting from Saipan there.
But also those other locations as well. Guam only getting 994.
And that's also in line with the storm being 940s.
And then you look at it when it made landfall, it doesn't look anything like.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't say with a straight face that Michael was 30 millibars stronger than that.
No, you cannot. Someone just asked, has it strengthened back to a Cat 5 yet? And the answer is no. It's pretty much maintained its intensity since yesterday. It was in the 150s-ish yesterday, and it's still 145, 150-ish today as well. And it's either going to maintain its intensity or gradual weakening will end up happening as it moves towards Luzon. It's going to be interesting to see what the storm's able to do in the last 24 hours before landfall, however, as conditions are expected to improve in that time frame. But JMA, here's the JMA cone again. Day 4, taking it directly over central Luzon. But notice, pay attention to the entire cone here, and you can see the Day 5 cone of uncertainty. Taiwan is in the Day 5 region. And it's the same thing with the Pagasa cone. Taiwan's also in the Day 5 region. So interest in Taiwan, need to pay attention to the storm. Also note that Manila is well within the cone as well. They should potentially pay attention to see if they're going to end up getting tropical storm force winds because the storm is so big. You can't discount that they'll potentially get at least gale force winds from this. So they need to. Basically, everybody on the island of Luzon needs to pay attention to this and further north.
What do you think is going to happen after it's passed with Luzon? Well, one or two models taking it into the East China Sea, but not lasting very long at all there. It's the time of year, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's going to sharply curve off to the north and east. Whatever happens, it's going to end up sharply curving up and off to the north and east. And whether if Taiwan ends up being in the way of it or not depends on when it curves. If it goes way into the South China Sea and then decides to curve, then Taiwan's going to be affected. But if it ends up curving directly over Luzon or before it gets there, obviously the effects on Taiwan will be minimal. But this is with the uncertainty of the storm being 4, 5, 6 days out from doing all of this, that it's really difficult to tell what the storm's actually going to do. Because, again, models are pretty much split right now, 50-50 between what's going on. Obviously, the official organizations are saying Luzon, impacts on Luzon. So I'd be inclined to agree with that.
As we always say during these events, we may not sound particularly clear because it's impossible to be clear about which areas are going to get hit the worst at such a lead time. But that's why we always say at this point that now is the time to prepare for this approaching storm. And, you know, I've been going through the history books recently about the Philippines in particular. And it's not unheard of at this time of year that a storm might strike the northern part of the country, followed by another one the next week. So even if this storm misses, you can't be too prepared.
Absolutely. And that's something you have to keep in mind, is that the Philippines, it's one of the most typhoon-prone regions in the entire world. We're not going to say that there's going to be something directly behind Yutu saying that it's going to happen, but this is something that has happened before in the past, and it could very well happen again. So there's no such thing as being too prepared for a storm. Just get all your preparations ready at the very least. And if you end up having to take any action, this way you don't have to prepare 2 days before the storm and all of a sudden nobody has anything.
Now, I'm looking at the recent satellite imagery again. It does appear as though there might be a bit of a fracture in the northeastern side of the eye. It looks to me like the eye might even be open. But besides that, the eye has deepened slightly in the last few frames, and really distinct cloud tops on the west and south.
Yeah, the west and south minus 90-degree cloud tops, but the eye just it's struggling to get itself organized.
It reminds me of when it was first intensifying, actually.
Yeah, and it looks a lot more circular than it has been in quite a while. If you take a look at the green area here, that's pretty circular compared to what it's been, but the northeast side is now really, really struggling.
Yeah.
So
There's some more questions there.
Yep. I was about to
re-strengthen again. We already talked about that. Well, I would say it can't be ruled out, obviously, and I think you would say the same, but
it can't be ruled out, but it's likely to gradually weaken over the next few days.
Any chances that Yutu will travel a long way to the Malay Peninsula? Not quite.
I don't think so. No. The furthest west that it might get is Hong Kong, and even then, that's pretty unlikely.
I think it did see one or two model runs going west of Hong Kong, but it's an outlier.
Yeah, they're all outliers.
Mangkut 2? Not really.
Probably not. If it ends up stalling over the over Luzon, then yeah, it could very well be just as bad as Mancut, but we can't really tell if it's going to do that or not at this moment.
And will there be a Guess the Storm tonight? The answer is no. We usually do some sort of game on Friday night, but we've been busy with storm updates, and I've been busy with illness recently. I can tell you that Holos Unleashed is back tomorrow night, so that's going to delight a lot of people. So stay tuned for that, or don't.
Yep. Anyways, just to switch gears a little bit, because I'm sure that a few people here are wondering, we also have that Invest in the Atlantic, Invest 95L. That is currently, I believe, has a 90% chance of formation. And right now, pretty much the situation is the same as yesterday. It's going to continue to trek north for a little bit, and then it's going to bend off to the west at the 24-hour mark. And it's going to continue moving west for a little bit, and then it's going to end up stalling, and then moving back up off to the north and east after that.
There's also an area of interest in the Eastern Pacific at 30% in the next 5 days.
Yeah, I don't think that's been tagged as an invest yet. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I don't think that's been tagged yet. So if it's not tagged as an invest by the Navy, you're not going to be able to get model runs like this. That's just how things work. But anyways, Invest 95L, if it were to be named, it's going to be a mid-range tropical storm at best, likely not to get too strong. And even if it does, it's going to be a fish storm, maybe pose a small threat to southeastern Newfoundland at the 6 to 7 day mark as it transitions to post-tropical. But even then, it's likely to stay pretty far south and east of that. So right now, 95L looking like a pretty insignificant fish storm. Definitely no threat to the United States. It shouldn't get as far west as Bermuda, so Bermuda should be fine. That's pretty much it for 95L. There's really not much to say about it.
Back to Yutu, one of our commenters notifies us about the ADT on Yutu, 7.3.
Yeah,
raw T number.
The raw T number is up to 7.3, but that's the ADT for you. It pretty much just pulls a number out of its backside and reads it. Yeah, the ADT has never really been that much of a reliable source, mainly because...
That's from Sims. I must make a distinction here, actually. According to NOAA, it's only 6.6.
And yeah, I would agree with that. 6.6 is exactly what I'd put the storm at. 6.5, but yeah, 6.5, 6.6. Right in that 100, that's 145 miles an hour. That's right where I'd put it.
Why are they so different?
Because one's automatically done by a computer and the other one has a human looking at it.
Which one's which?
The advanced euphoric technique is completely computer automated. So there's errors that are going to pop up.
Hold on a minute. I'm sure the NOAA one is as well.
Is it now? I thought those were
anyway.
I thought those were all. I thought all of the NOAA techniques were subjective.
Not all of them, no. Maybe the other one missed the eye or something. Anyway, that's a bit of a moot point at this time.
A lot of people are asking if Yutu will become a Cat 5 again. We're really not expecting it to. This storm should either maintain its current intensity, maybe strengthen a little bit in the next few hours, but then sea surface temperatures are going to decrease, wind shear is going to increase, and it's going to move into a bit of a drier, more stable environment, and that's likely going to hamper any sort of intensification for the storm. However, in the area that would be like 24 hours from landfall, so like 3 days from now, it will have a window to re-intensify. However, because of the size of this storm, I don't think it's going to be able to re-intensify much.
Oh, I don't know, looking at it. Time will tell.
Yeah, time will...
Gotta get that northeastern eye wall back. Just a point on that latest eye temperature. It is approximately -7.
Well, that's better than it's been, but that's still pretty awful, to say the least.
Would you... is there any weight in the storm's history as to what it's going to do next?
Like what the storm's done in its past? Well, I don't...
Given how people will be asking how it's managed to intensify like that once, then do we have higher expectations for this storm?
Well, you have to realize that Yutu, when it went underneath that extremely rapid bout of intensification where it jumped up like 100 knots in 24 hours or whatever it was a very small, compact system at that time. It was just an extreme blow-up of minus 90-degree cloud tops over extremely warm waters, and it just ended up blowing up and intensifying the way that it did. Then it underwent its eye wall replacement cycle, blew up in size, ended up becoming a monster. And now it's been undergoing like 3 eye wall replacements at once. And we're ending up looking at this storm, which honestly doesn't look that impressive. You can really see, if I pause it here right on this last frame, I can show right there, you can really see that just how weak the northeastern side is. You can see the warmer cloud tops here leading out of the eye, showing a potential weakness. Maybe some of that dry air is starting to affect the system. That's a potential cause of that weakness in the northeastern quadrant.
All right. I guess that's us done, is it, for now?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We've pretty much gone over everything. I'm just going to...
I just want to mention to everyone in that case that we are planning to do another recorded update on this storm at 6 a.m. Philippine time. That is in just over 3 hours.
All right. I'm just going to leave off by once again repeating the information out of Pagasa. The key points. They're saying that Wednesday morning, the typhoon is going to be in the vicinity of Cagayan. That's October 31st. Typhoon Yutu is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility tomorrow morning and will be named Rosita upon entering the area of responsibility. The typhoon may threaten northern Luzon and the eastern section of central Luzon between Tuesday and Wednesday. The tropical cyclone warning signals may be raised as early as Monday morning over the Isabela and Cagayan areas, and moderate to heavy rains directly associated with the typhoon is expected over northern and central Luzon beginning Monday evening, which is October 29th. So basically here, if you are currently living in Luzon and potentially further along the southern coast of Taiwan, definitely continue to monitor the progress of this system as it continues to move off to the west. And, of course, listen to any local officials or evacuation orders. Just listen to them and make sure to stay as safe as possible during this storm. We'll see you later for the 6 o'clock advisory in that case. Have a good night.